Who wanted to see, you wanted to see taller vertical forms? I'll do one of those right now if you want to stay and watch. Otherwise, those of you that have seen my taller vertical form demo are welcome to go back to work.
How tall are you like this?
I don't know, not very
3
tall.
feet.
Taller than that.
Got that right, Andy. We're just gonna freeze frame that.
We'll do that one.
Hey, anything taller than that in my world is a very tall form.
Challenge.
I have to make up for last week. I didn't pick on you last week.
So you can see how I'm changing my position. You know, when I was making that cup, I was sort of relaxed, right? Here it's, I put my foot back so I can really lean my leg into it, so that, you know, this energy I'm creating here, pushing forward, transfers from my leg through my arm and into the clay. And so you can just about get everything centered that way. And then my right hand just comes down over the top, pushing down and pulling back in. And then here again, it's going to open that well up more than I expect it to actually be.
Now is the bottom up further than the walls of the top?
Nope. No, it's pretty much that diameter, yeah. I'll get that bottom compressed while I have good access to it. And then here you can see I've developed some more wobble. I'll go back to my centering position now, but instead of here I'll just drop inside. And my right, this hand really isn't doing a lot, it's just sort of holding that inside in place. Recenter a little bit. And then from there, kind of take the bottom part of my outside hand and roll it in just a little bit. Kind of scoop that pinky and get underneath the clay and push it up. And my inside hand again is just sort of guiding. This is a problem. I haven't worn this thing in like 3 years. It's about to get lost. No, I don't get in trouble. She just gets even. Same move again, but that time I'll just come up halfway and then collar a little bit. And so what I'm doing here is sort of getting the bulk of that clay up to the point where the top here and the bottom down here are almost the same thickness. You know, the drawback to all that extra clay for a large piece is that it's tough to get it, and so I think that doing that first moves it to where it needs to be, and then I'll go into a knuckle throwing, where I'm throwing with just that side of my knuckle. And again, here I'm not pushing with my hand, I'm pushing with my leg. I've got my hand locked in place, mostly. And then in this situation, my inside hand is lower. And also my thumb is sort of riding that clay as it approaches into my knuckle, and I'm not sure what that does. It's something stabilizing. What? Yeah, that might help with that. Super groovy. Yeah, I think it's the knuckle. I'll do a couple of pulls that way. And inside hand is lower. Keeping that lip stable the taller you go really helps, you know, and if that starts to get out of whack, it can really pull the rest of everything with it. Now I'm about to switch to fingers, but I'm going to collar first and try to pull it up as I collar. And that'll give me some of the height I'm looking for. So I'm going to lose some as I stick my hand back down in, because it's going to stretch and it's going to come down because of that stretching. And then compress, and now my inside hand is higher. You can see how it's pushing out the clay just above my fingertips out here. Trick is to keep moving. You're going to try to match that speed the wheel is going.
And you're just gently squeezing out on the
One?
Yeah.
No. No, I'm just holding it. And it's really kind of like a safety. It's a security blanket. Yeah, totally. I'm used to hanging on to it, so without it there, it's weird.
And you're not getting dry as you go. It's not getting like really
Well, that's
dry.
the thing about keeping going, you know. You got to keep going. And then control the shape. You know, if it opens up on you, or you start to get the belly out in here, you've got to bring it back to a nice straight cylinder. You start losing that before you're ready to shape, it's tough to get that much height out of something that already has shape in it. And what I'm going to do is end up ribbing this thing up and down a few times to make it a little more plastic. I think I can get one more throw, maybe. Helps to remember to breathe.
Details.
So now I'll start to shape some, but I'm trying to hold that rib nice and steady. I'll be able to get the form to calm down a little bit. go rather quick at the top because I've already built up so much clay on here that it's not doing much. And so now when I come back, I'll start just below there and pick it up.
What were you feeling that made you pause there?
Oh, I've got some little ridges here that I was trying to push out. Went back down a little bit to try to push again.
I like it when it had all the ridges in it.
Yeah, I have left them, sure. I'd be afraid to do too much shaping
With the ridges in.
with the ridges in just because it hasn't been compressed very much.
Ridges are back there.
So you can see that, what is that, 2 or 3 rib pulls? Not much has changed. Now I'll start to futz with the form a little more. And then down here, I'm really just, because I've got some extra holding clay on the outside, I'm really just feeling the inside for what shape I want it to be. I'm trying not to be too concerned what the bottom outside looks like.
Where would you say, like, you start your curve coming out? My thoughts always seem to be too bottom heavy.
Bottom heavy.
And I know
Yeah.
I do it every time, and
Yeah.
it pisses me off.
You know what the secret is?
What?
Don't push so hard on the bottom.
Okay, wait.
Okay, she's got knives over here.
But I know she likes me a little. You know, I'm really concentrating on keeping, as I'm down in the bottom there, I'm really concentrating on keeping that diameter the same. And then as I'm pushing, I'm not scooping like this. I'm at that bottom, I'm really trying to do that. I'm trying to scoop that way. And coming down on it can help. But I found when they're tall like this, it's hard to, I think it's just easier to be very careful down there. Yeah, it's a fine line. It's really a fine line. It's easy to go too much, and then you're committed.
Yeah.
You know, to make the rest look good, well, you've got to keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inside.
Yep. So that inside diameter is maybe like that. So I'm going to do some wet trimming on here because I won't want to put it back on later. Get rid of that stuff. So now before I start to close the top off, this will end up being a bottle, by the way. Before I start closing the top off, I'm going to moisten the walls again, just down to where I'm going to reach, and then I'm going to moisten the outside just down to where I'm going to want to start my collar, and then I'm going to soak that water out one more time. Now I shouldn't have to put any more water in there. I'm not sure where I'm looking. I'm sort of trying to see the walls and the center of the bottom all at the same time. It's really important that you don't chicken wing in this situation. You got to keep your arms planted. It's easy to start to do that. And then now, because I want to try and keep that surface nice and smooth, I'll only throw with the pad of my thumb.
Now are you throwing because you had colored it and it got thicker?
Your inside fingers are supporting that when you're pressing it with your thumb?
They're actually pushing the clay out just over the top of my thumb a little bit. Yeah, it's the same sort of position as throwing this way, but it's more like this.
Okay.
What's happening right here in the shoulder, so I'm just going to lift it again. And then again, because of that weight issue, of course I don't have a needle tool yet. I don't want to let that top get too out of control.
I thought it was the small for the picture.
It could be. See what happens as soon as you move away from the thumb and into the finger, you get those lines. And for me, my rule for bottlenecks is never let it be straight up and down. Never let it go to that perfect vertical state. Always keep it, that curve moving if possible. And if it doesn't, if there's just no way to have a curve in it, at least in my mind, then something's wrong and you should maybe cut it off shorter or try not to have it so dynamic, or I don't know. But I've found that somewhere there's a happy medium between the height of that neck and the compound curve that it has. And then that last movement off of it is a downward movement.
This looks like the Chinese, it's called a beauty vase. Because it has the shape of like a woman.
A beauty vase?
Yes.
Maybe that's why I like making the shapes.
See, you were making Chinese faces all along, you just didn't know it.
And then sometimes if I feel like I'm just not getting that shoulder to blend in with the neck the way I want it to, I'll just do that. Call it done.
Cheating, isn't
And then a little bit of trimming at the bottom, and this is the, if you haven't done this before, it's tricky because the tool wants to grab, and so I found that if you come in straight on and let that whole edge hit the clay, it's probably going to grab. So I'll turn it so I'm just sort of using a portion of that flat, and then it's just take a layer. Layer, because it'll keep wrapping up on itself, and then it'll get all bouncy and uneven. Do the top, do that bottom first, and then I'll start to feather it down. And as soon as I see that trimming come around to me, I try to pull off right away. Grab it. This is how you cheat. And then once in a while, it's a good idea to push it just a little bit. And if it feels real spongy, you want to stop. Trick is to try to remember that inside diameter, and then add some water here, because that'll keep it from tearing too much as you come around with the little tip. And then get rid of that water. So when you pull your wire through, it doesn't pull water with it. Because that'll stick it back down. And then just a little bit of dressing with the rib to cover your tracks. Don't.
Can't prove I did it.
Yeah. Definitely want to do that holding clay at the very last, and then maybe a breath of life.
Oh, man.
It's especially good if you have a beard and mustache to do.
It's the only time it's worth it.
I didn't get that on tape.
I thought you said a beer and a mustache.
Yeah, that too.
Oh, beer. Or you can bring that. Lip fairly thin, gives the illusion of being maybe lighter or more delicate than it is. Give myself a chance to ruin it. And then the moment of truth.
And then we hate him.
Yeah. that calls for a standing ovation.
No, we're currently hating him over here.
It's, if you do that ribbing to the walls and really compress them down and do that, and getting all that weight off the bottom. And now it's time for a muffin.
You have to wash your hands.